My mom let the man who forcefully slept with me hold my daughter, then cried when I took her away. When I told her I'd never forgive her, she said, "You should be over it by now because it happened so long ago." I walked away. That was a decade ago. Last month, she died alone in a hospital bed hooked up to machines. I was essayed by my boyfriend's, now husband Ryan, ex-best friend Jack when I was 16. My mother never liked my husband because she wanted me to be with Jack since he came from a good family. So when Jack had his way with me, she didn't believe me despite all the evidence that he had done this. Jack's mom was also my mom's boss, so I think that might have had a huge part in her not believing me. While I was waiting for trial, I moved in with my boyfriend and his parents. During this time, I found out I was pregnant, and I knew it wasn't my boyfriend's because we were never intimate, and I was never with anyone like that beforehand. Jack ended up taking a plea deal and got no jail time in exchange for him never having any right to see my daughter. When my daughter was born, my mother asked me to move back home and said sorry for everything she did. A year after my daughter, Emma, was born, I went to college a few hours away, and my mom retired early to watch her while I went to college. During the week, I stayed on campus and went home on the weekends. I also called every night to make sure my daughter was okay. One day we had a big snowstorm, and my Thursday and Friday classes were canceled, so I went home early without telling my mom, and guess who was in the kitchen when I walked in? Jack's mom, my mom, and Jack. Jack was also holding Emma when I walked in. They were surprised to say the least, and I started flipping out and grabbed my daughter and packed a bag with her stuff. My mother and Jack's mother were pleading with me to not leave while I was packing. When I went to leave, my mom was crying now, begging me to forgive her. I said I would never forgive her and went to walk out. On my way out, Jack grabbed my arm and said I should be nicer to my mother. My mother called me hundreds of times, but I never answered her. I left to get an apartment with my husband and daughter. I also got a babysitter for when I was in class. A week after this incident, my mother put over $100,000 in my bank account to buy me over or get me to talk to her. I didn't even know where she got that money from. My younger sister got married years after this happened, and I had to interact with my mom again. I had to be civil with her as she asked about Emma, who she hadn't seen in 10 years, my son Tyler, and my current pregnancy. She told me how she wanted to fix things with me and see her grandkids before she eventually dies. She even claimed she always believed me about the salt. She just didn't want to be fired. I asked her if she still hangs out with Jack's mother. She said sometimes, but mostly at church. I left the conversation at that. I was pissed because on top of allowing Jack to see my daughter, she hangs out with the woman who went around town telling everyone that I was a lying SLet, that Jack hadn't taken advantage of me and we actually slept together and I felt guilty about it, and lied saying he worded me. When I got home, I was pissed off and just needed to cool down. I thought a lot that night about what happened, and the next day I made the decision to call my mom for the first time in 10 years. I wanted to talk to her more and see if we could move forward from what happened and see if I could forgive her. The conversation went well at first. We were talking about current things in our life, but then the conversation turned into church, which led to her talking about Jack. She felt the need to inform me how much my daughter looks like his other kids, because apparently I'm supposed to care. I told her I did not want to talk about him, but she continued. She said he's a better person now and feels terrible for what he did and how I should forgive him because it happened so long ago. You should be over it by now, she said. I got pissed. My mother has never heard about what happened from me. She only ever listened to his story about what happened. So I told her what happened, what really happened, and how her talking about the man who assaulted me will make me have zero respect for her. I told her to never call me to keep our relationship the way it's been for the last years because she is never going to change. I ended with telling her I would never bring any of my kids around her because I couldn't trust her to be around them. After hanging up the phone, I blocked my mom's number. The next few months were quiet. I focused on my pregnancy, my kids, and building our life without my mother's drama. My husband was supportive, always checking in on me and making sure I was okay. Then the calls started coming in from relatives. My Aunt Elizabeth called first, asking why I had cut my mom off for no reason. My cousin Jordan texted next, saying my mom had been crying at family gatherings about how unfairly I was treating her. Each time, I calmly explained that there were very good reasons for my decision, but I didn't want to drag them into my personal business. As if things couldn't get worse, Emma came home from school one day asking me, "Mommy, who is Jack?" Lily at school says her daddy knows him, and that I might be related to his kids. My blood ran cold. I sat my daughter down and gently explained that sometimes people get confused about family connections, and that Lily was mistaken. I asked her not to worry about it, but inside I was furious. My mother had clearly been talking to her church friends whose children attended my daughter's school. That evening, I called the school and spoke with the principal. I didn't share all the details, but explained that there was a family situation that was causing confusion for my daughter, and asked if the teachers could be mindful of any uncomfortable conversations that might come up. The principal was understanding and promised to keep an eye on things. A week later, packages started arriving at our house. Baby clothes for the new baby, cards begging for forgiveness, and the worst one, a framed photo of Jack and his children. I recognized my daughter's face was edited onto the image, and I felt furious. I returned each one to my mother. It was clear she was still pushing her sick fantasy that Jack was part of our family. I called a lawyer that same day. I didn't want to press charges yet, but I needed to start documenting everything in case things escalated further. The lawyer suggested keeping a detailed log of all contact attempts and advised me on how to properly store evidence. A week later, I received a text from my cousin Riley saying, "Just wanted to warn you, Aunt Susan, my mom, is talking about going to family court for grandparent visitation rights. She's been meeting with a lawyer." This was the final straw. I called my lawyer immediately and explained the situation. She advised me to gather all my documentation and file for a restraining order before my mother could file for visitation. Over the next week, I collected everything. The court records from Jack's case showing his guilty plea, written statements from our babysitter Quinn. I also wrote a detailed timeline of events going back years. The court date arrived faster than I expected. At 8 months pregnant, I waddled into the courtroom feeling nervous but determined. My mother was already there, tissues in hand, playing the role of the heartbroken grandmother. When her turn came to speak, she painted a picture of a loving grandmother cruelly cut off from her grandchild for no reason. She claimed I was unstable and made up stories about Jack. She even suggested that my pregnancy hormones were making me irrational. Then it was my turn. I stayed calm and methodical, presenting my evidence chronologically. I explained Jack's assault, the court case, and my mother's years of denial. I showed the altered photo, the statements from witnesses, and the documentation of her attempts to contact me despite my clear boundaries. As I spoke, I watched my mother's face change. Her story was crumbling under the weight of evidence and truth. truth. The judge listened carefully, asking occasional questions to clarify details. When I finished, the judge took a moment to review all the documents. The courtroom was silent except for the occasional shuffle of papers. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure everyone could hear it. Finally, the judge looked up. Mrs. Bennett, she addressed my mother, I find the evidence presented by your daughter to be both compelling and disturbing. Not only did you fail to protect your child from her abuser, but you actively facilitated contact between this individual and your granddaughter, in direct violation of a court order. My mother started to protest, but the judge held up her hand. I'm not finished. Your subsequent attempts to force a relationship, including sending manipulated photographs and attempting to use other family members to pressure your daughter, demonstrate a concerning lack of boundaries and respect for her parental authority. The judge turned to me next. Ms. Walker, I am granting your request for a restraining order. Your mother will not be permitted to contact you, your husband, or your children through any means, direct or indirect, for a period of 2 years. At that time, you may request a renewal if necessary. Relief washed over me. The judge continued, addressing my mother again. Mrs. Bennett, I strongly suggest you seek counseling to address your inability to recognize the harm your actions have caused. Should you violate this restraining order, you will face serious legal consequences. My mother burst into tears, but they weren't the calculated sobs she'd used earlier. These were ugly, desperate cries of someone who had finally been held accountable for their actions. As we left the courtroom, Ryan put his arm around me. You did it, he whispered. It's over. But it wasn't over. Not really. As we walked to our car, I spotted Jack's mother standing near the courthouse steps. She was watching us with cold eyes, her mouth set in a thin line. She didn't approach or say anything, just stared as we passed. That night, I couldn't sleep despite my exhaustion. I kept thinking about Jack's mother at the courthouse. Why was she there? Had my mother invited her? Or was she there on her own, still invested in protecting her son's reputation after all these years? The next morning, I woke up to my phone buzzing with notifications. Someone had created a Facebook page called Justice for Susan Bennett, claiming I was a vindictive daughter keeping a loving grandmother from her grandchildren. There were already dozens of comments from people in our old town, most of whom didn't know me or the real story. I showed it to Ryan, who immediately reported the page to Facebook. Don't read the comments, he advised. They don't know what they're talking about. But I couldn't help myself. I scrolled through, my stomach churning as I read comment after comment, calling me selfish, unstable, even evil. Many mentioned Jack, saying he was a good Christian man who had made a mistake as a teenager and deserved forgiveness. One comment in particular caught my eye. It was from Jack's mother. Susan has been a dear friend to our family for years. She's a wonderful grandmother who is being punished for maintaining friendships that her daughter disapproves of. This restraining order is a travesty of justice. I threw my phone across the room, barely missing Tyler as he walked in. Mom? He asked, his eyes wide. Are you okay? I forced a smile. I'm fine, buddy. Just dropped my phone. What's up? Emma won't let me play with her Legos, he complained, momentarily distracting me from my anger. I spent the morning mediating a Lego dispute, making breakfast, and trying not to think about the Facebook page. By afternoon, Facebook had removed it, but the damage was done. Screenshots were circulating, and the gossip in our old town was spreading. That evening, I got a call from Olivia. Have you seen what Mom's doing? She asked without preamble. The Facebook page? Yeah, it's not just that, Olivia said. She's telling everyone at church that you're mentally unstable and that you're turning Emma against her real father. I felt suck. Jack is not her father. Ryan is her father in every way that matters. I know that, Olivia assured me. I'm just telling you what she's saying. It's getting out of hand. Some of the church ladies are talking about organizing a prayer vigil outside your house. They don't even know where I live, I said, but a chill ran down my spine. My mother knew our address. She'd been sending packages there. Mom might have shared it, Olivia admitted reluctantly. I'm sorry, Cassie. I tried to talk her out of all this, but she won't listen to me. After we hung up, I called my lawyer again. She advised me to document everything and said she'd file a motion for contempt if my mother was found to be orchestrating harassment in violation of the restraining order. The next day, I was at the grocery store with Emma when a woman I didn't recognize approached us in the cereal aisle. Are you Cassie Walker? She asked, her eyes darting between me and Emma. I instinctively moved Emma behind me. Who's asking? I'm Melissa Miller, she said. Jack's wife. My heart nearly stopped. This was the woman who had married my arpist, who was raising children with him. She was pretty in a conventional way. I have nothing to say to you, I said, turning to leave. Please, she said, reaching for my arm but stopping short of touching me. I just want to talk. 5 minutes. Emma was looking up at me curiously. I didn't want to make a scene in front of her. Emma, can you go pick out a box of granola bars, the ones with chocolate chips that you like? Once Emma was a few feet away, I turned back to Melissa. Make it quick. Jack told me everything, she said, about what happened when you were teenagers. He's not that person anymore. He's a good husband, a good father. I laughed bitterly. Good men don't rap 16-year-old girls. She flinched but pressed on. He made a terrible mistake. He spent years trying to make up for it. The community service, the coaching, the church work, it's all his way of atoning. What do you want from me? I asked, keeping one eye on Emma, who was comparing nutrition labels on granola bar boxes. I want you to stop this vendetta against Susan, she said. She's a sweet woman who just wants to know her grandchildren. This restraining order is cruel. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My mother let Jack, a man who repped me, who signed away his parental rights as part of a legal agreement, hold my daughter. She betrayed me in the worst possible way, and she's never truly apologized for it. So no, I won't be dropping the restraining order. Melissa's face hardened. You know, Jack said you were always dramatic, always making everything about you. I can see he was right. I felt a surge of rage so strong I had to clench my fists to keep from slapping her. Get away from me and my daughter before I call the police. She gave me one last look before walking away. I was shaking so badly I had to lean against the shopping cart for support. Emma returned with her granola bars, oblivious to what had just happened. Can we get ice cream too, Mom? Sure, sweetie, I managed, trying to keep my voice steady. That night, after the kids were in bed, I told Ryan about the encounter with Melissa. He was furious. That's harassment, he said. We should call the lawyer again. I don't think she technically violated the restraining order, I said. She's not named in it, and my mother might not have sent her. But it's too much of a coincidence, Ryan argued. First the Facebook page, then Olivia's warning about the church ladies, now Jack's wife approaching you in public. They're coordinating this. He was right. This wasn't random. It was a campaign to pressure me into dropping the restraining order. The next day, I had a doctor's appointment. apartment. My blood pressure was dangerously elevated, and the doctor was concerned. "You're at risk for preeclampsia," she warned. "I want you on bed rest for the remainder of your pregnancy. No stress, no work, just rest." I laughed humorlessly. "No stress? That's not really an option right now." I explained the situation with my mother and the recent harassment. The doctor listened sympathetically. "Then you need to find ways to shield yourself from it," she said firmly. "Turn off your phone, stay off social media, have your husband screen visitors. Your priority right now has to be your health and your baby's health." She was right. I went home and followed her advice. Ryan took over dealing with the lawyer and fielding calls from concerned friends and family. I focused on resting, reading books to Emma and Tyler, and preparing for Lily's arrival. For a week, it worked. My blood pressure stabilized, and I started to feel more like myself. Then one afternoon, while Ryan was at work and the kids were at school, there was a knock at the door. I ignored it at first, following the doctor's orders to avoid stress. But the knocking became more insistent, followed by a woman's voice calling my name. Cautiously, I approached the door and looked through the peephole. It was Jack's mother, standing on my porch with what looked like a gift basket. I didn't open the door. Instead, I called Ryan, who said he'd come home immediately. Then I called the police to report a violation of the restraining order. While I waited, Jack's mother continued knocking intermittently. "Cassie, I know you're in there," she called. "I just want to talk. I brought some things for the new baby." The police arrived before Ryan did. I watched through the window as they spoke to Jack's mother on the porch. She gestured animatedly, clearly trying to explain herself. One officer came to the door while his partner continued talking to her. I opened the door just enough to speak to the officer. "I have a restraining order against my mother," I explained. "This woman is her close friend and has been involved in harassing me." The officer nodded. "We'll check the details of the restraining order, but if she's not specifically named in it, there may not be much we can do beyond asking her to leave your property." "She's part of a coordinated effort to harass me," I insisted. "My mother is using her friends to get around the restraining order. We'll document the incident," the officer promised, "and we'll make sure she leaves. If you have evidence of coordination, you should share that with your lawyer." By the time Ryan got home, the police had convinced Jack's mother to leave. The gift basket remained on our porch. Ryan picked it up gingerly, like it might explode. "Should we open it?" he asked. "No," I said firmly. "I don't want anything from them." Ryan took it to the garage, planning to dispose of it later, but curiosity got the better of me. After he went back to work, assuring me he'd come straight home if I called, I went to the garage and opened the basket. Inside were baby clothes, a stuffed animal, and a card. The card had a handwritten note. "Cassie, I hope you'll reconsider your position on Susan seeing her grandchildren. Jack has asked me to tell you that he harbors no ill will toward you, and hopes that one day Emma might know her half-siblings. We're all family after all. Margaret Miller." I dropped the card like it had burned me. The audacity of these people was breathtaking. They still didn't get it. They still saw Jack's Zolt as some kind of youthful indiscretion, not a creamy that had changed the course of my life. I called my lawyer and read her the note. She sighed heavily. "This is borderline. It doesn't explicitly violate the restraining order since your mother didn't send it herself, but it's clearly an attempt to circumvent it. I'll file a motion to expand the restraining order to include Jack, his wife, and his mother." That evening, Ryan and I discussed our options. "Maybe we should move," he suggested. "Start fresh somewhere they can't find us." I shook my head. "I'm not uprooting our kids because these people can't respect boundaries. Besides, I'm due in 3 weeks. We can't move now. After the baby comes then," Ryan pressed. "We could look at houses in other states. I can transfer to another branch of the company." I considered it. The idea of putting physical distance between us and this toxic situation was appealing, but it also felt like running away. "Let me think about it," I said finally. The next day, I got a call from an unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered it. "Hello?" I said cautiously. "Cassie, it's Jack." I nearly dropped the phone. His voice sent a chill down my spine, instantly transporting me back to that night in the woods. "How did you get this number?" I demanded. "That doesn't matter," he said. "We need to talk. This has gone on long enough." "There's nothing to talk about," I said, my voice shaking. "Don't call me again. Emma deserves to know her real father," he said, his voice hardening. "You can't keep her from me forever. You signed away your rights," I reminded him. "That was the deal. No jail time in exchange for never contacting us." "I was a kid," he argued. "I didn't understand what I was giving up. I have rights." "No, you don't," I said firmly. "And if you call me again, I'll report you for violating the plea agreement." I hung up and immediately called my lawyer again. She advised me to save the call log and write down everything Jack had said while it was fresh in my mind. That night, I started having contractions. They were mild at first, just uncomfortable tightening sensations, but by midnight, they were coming regularly, 5 minutes apart. I was only 37 weeks along, not dangerously premature, but earlier than expected. Ryan drove me to the hospital while our neighbor stayed with Emma and Tyler. The doctor confirmed I was in labor. "Your blood pressure is still elevated," she noted with concern. "We'll monitor you closely." The labor progressed quickly. By 6 a.m., I was fully dilated and ready to push. Lily Walker was born at 6:42 a.m., weighing 6 pounds, 3 ounces. She was perfect. A head full of dark hair, Ryan's nose, my chin. As I held her against my chest, feeling her tiny heart beating against mine, I made a decision. We would move. We would start fresh somewhere far from here, somewhere my mother and Jack and his family couldn't find us easily. Ryan brought Emma and Tyler to meet their new sister later that day. They were enchanted with her, taking turns gently touching her tiny fingers and toes. "She's so small," Emma marveled. "Was I this small?" "You were even smaller," I told her, smiling at the memory. "But you grew big and strong, just like Lily will." As I watched my 3 children together, I felt a fierce protectiveness wash over me. I would do anything to keep them safe, to shield them from the toxic people who had caused me so much pain. The day we were scheduled to leave the hospital, I was packing up our things when a nurse came in with a large bouquet of flowers. "These just arrived for you," she said cheerfully, placing them on the windowsill. I thanked her, then checked the card when she left. It read, "Congratulations on your new addition. Family is everything. Susan, Margaret, and Jack." My hands shook as I dropped the card. They knew about Lily's birth. They knew which hospital we were in. The boundaries I had tried so hard to establish were being trampled again and again. Ryan returned from pulling the car around and immediately noticed my distress. "What's wrong?" I handed him the card. He got angry as he read it. "That's it. We're moving as soon as possible. I don't care where, as long as it's far from here." I nodded, cradling Lily closer. "I agree." Over the next few weeks, Ryan researched job transfers while I recovered from childbirth. We settled on Denver, far enough away that a casual drop-by would be impossible, but with good schools and job opportunities. Ryan's company had an office there and approved his transfer request. We didn't tell anyone our plans except Ryan's parents and my sister Olivia, who promised to keep it secret. We put our house on the market and it sold within a week. I was paranoid the whole time that my mother or Jack would somehow find out and try to stop us. The day before our move, I took Emma and Tyler to say goodbye to their friends. Emma was sad but excited about the adventure. Tyler was mostly concerned about whether his Lego collection would survive the trip. Kids are resilient like that. That night, as we finished packing the last boxes, someone rang our doorbell. Ryan and I looked at each other in alarm. "I'll get it," Ryan said, squeezing my shoulder. I peeked around the corner and saw my sister Olivia standing on our porch. Relief washed over me as Ryan let her in. "I had to come say goodbye in person," she said, hugging me tight. "And to give you this." She handed me an envelope. Inside was a check for $50,000. "What is this?" I asked, confused. "It's from Mom's account," Olivia explained. "I have power of attorney for her finances now. She had a small stroke last week." My stomach dropped. Despite everything, hearing my mother was ill affected me. "Is she okay?" "She'll recover, but the doctors say she needs to reduce stress. She's been obsessing over you and the kids for months," Olivia sighed. "I found out she's been paying Jack's family too. Thousands of dollars to help them reunite with Emma. I felt sick. That's why they've been so persistent." "Exactly. Once I cut off the money, Jack's mother admitted the whole plan. They've been coordinating everything. The Facebook page, the accidental meeting at the grocery store, all of it. They thought if they pressured you enough, you'd give in. And Mom was funding all of it? I couldn't believe it. She truly believes she's helping. In her mind, you're keeping Emma from her real family. It's delusional, but she can't see it." Olivia looked at the check in my hand. "This is your money. Mom took that settlement from Jack's family years ago and has been using it to manipulate you. I'm giving it back." I stared at the check. "I don't want their money." "Then use it to build your new life. College funds for the kids. Whatever you want." Olivia hugged me again. "Just be happy, Cassie. That's all I want for you." After she left, I sat with Ryan on our empty living room floor, surrounded by boxes. "Should we take it?" I asked, showing him the check. Ryan thought for a moment. "It's not Jack's money anymore. It's yours. Use it to give our kids the life they deserve." The next morning, we loaded the moving truck and our SUV. As we pulled away from the house, I felt a weight lifting. Denver was a fresh start, away from the toxic people who had caused us so much pain. The drive took 2 days. We stayed in a hotel overnight, the kids excited about the pool and vending machines. I kept checking my phone, half expecting messages from my mother or Jack, but there was nothing. Olivia had done what she promised, kept our destination secret. Our new house was smaller than our old one, but in a nice neighborhood with good schools nearby. The mountains visible in the distance made me feel like we were truly starting over. The kids immediately ran to explore their new rooms while Ryan and I directed the movers. That night, after the kids were asleep in their new beds, Ryan and I sat on our back deck with glasses of wine. "Do you think they'll find us?" I asked quietly. Ryan took my hand. "If they do, we have the restraining order, and we'll get a new one here if necessary. But I think cutting off the money will stop most of it." I nodded, hoping he was right. The first few months in Denver were peaceful. Emma and Tyler adjusted well to their new schools and made friends quickly. Lily was growing fast, already trying to roll over at 3 months. Ryan liked his new position at work. I started taking online classes to finish my degree. Then one day, about 6 months after our move, I got a letter forwarded from our old address. It was from my mother's lawyer. My heart raced as I opened it, expecting more legal threats. Instead, it was a notification that my mother had updated her will. She had left her entire estate to be divided between Emma, Tyler, and Lily when they turned 21. There was a personal note attached. "Cassie, I know you won't accept anything from me, but please don't deny your children their inheritance. I've instructed my lawyer that you are to have complete control over the funds until they come of age. No conditions, no strings attached. I was wrong about everything. I'm sorry I failed you. Mom." I showed the letter to Ryan that night. "What do you think?" he asked. "Do you believe her?" I sighed. "I don't know. But the fact that she's not trying to use this to see the kids is different." A week later, Olivia called with news. "Mom's in the hospital again. Another stroke, bigger this time. The doctors don't think she'll recover." I felt conflicted. This woman had betrayed me in the worst way possible, had chosen my R-pist over me, had endangered my daughter, but she was still my mother. "Do you want to come see her?" Olivia asked gently. "No pressure. She's not conscious anyway." After talking it over with Ryan, I decided to go. Not for my mother, but for myself, for closure. Ryan stayed with the kids while I flew back for a day trip. The hospital was quiet when I arrived. Olivia met me in the lobby and hugged me tight. "Thanks for coming," she whispered. "I know this isn't easy." My mother looked small in the hospital bed, tubes and wires connecting her to machines that beeped steadily. Her hair, always perfectly styled, was flat against the pillow. I sat in the chair beside her bed, not sure what to feel. "The doctors say she probably can't hear us," Olivia said, "but you can talk to her if you want. I'll give you some privacy." After Olivia left, I sat in silence for a long time, just watching my mother breathe with the help of machines. Finally, I spoke. "I don't forgive you," I said quietly. "What you did was unforgivable. You chose Jack over me. You put Emma in danger. You tried to manipulate me with money and guilt." I took a deep breath. "But I'm not going to let what you did define the rest of my life. I'm building something good with Ryan and our kids. We're happy. And that's not because of you, but in spite of you." I stood up to leave, then paused. "The kids will get your inheritance. Not because you deserve to give them anything, but because I won't let your mistakes affect their future opportunities. That's what a real mother does. Puts her children first. Always." I left without looking back. Olivia was waiting in the hallway, her eyes red from crying. "She's not going to wake up, is she?" I asked. Olivia shook her head. "The doctors don't think so." I hugged my sister. "I'm sorry you've had to deal with all this alone." "I'm not alone," she said. "I have Marcus, and now I have you back in my life too." My mother died 3 days later. I didn't go to the funeral. Instead, I stayed home with my family, helping Emma with her science project and watching Tyler's soccer game. Olivia understood. A month after the funeral, Olivia called with news that Jack's mother had moved to Florida. Jack and his family had apparently relocated to the East Coast. With my mother gone and the money cut off, they had finally given up. Life settled into a comfortable routine. Emma turned 11 and was thriving in middle school. Tyler was 9 and obsessed with astronomy. Lily was walking and getting into everything. Ryan got promoted at work. I finished my degree and started a small bookkeeping business I could run from home. We rarely talked about my mother or Jack. The kids knew vaguely that Grandma Susan had done some bad things, and that's why we moved. But we didn't burden them with the full story. Emma occasionally asked questions about her biological father, and I answered honestly, but age-appropriately. He was someone who hurt me very badly, and the court decided he shouldn't be part of our lives. One day, Emma came home from school looking troubled. Mom, can I ask you something? She said, sitting at the kitchen counter while I prepared dinner. Of course, sweetie. What's up? We're doing this genetics project in science, and she hesitated. I know Dad isn't my biological father. Will I ever meet my real dad? I put down the knife I was using to chop vegetables and sat next to her. Ryan is your real dad in every way that matters. He's raised you, loved you, and been there for you your whole life. I know, she said quickly. And I love Dad. I just sometimes wonder about, where half my DNA comes from. I took a deep breath. The man who is biologically related to you hurt me very badly when I was young. As part of the legal agreement, he signed away all parental rights. That means legally, he's not your father. Emma nodded slowly. Was it what happened that made Grandma Susan stop talking to us? It's complicated, I said carefully. Grandma made some choices that put you in danger. That's why we moved away. Do you miss her? Emma asked. I thought about it honestly. I miss the mother I should have had. The one who would have protected me and stood by me no matter what. But that wasn't who she was. Emma hugged me suddenly. I'm glad Dad's my real dad. And I'm glad you protected me, even when it was hard. I hugged her back, tears in my eyes. Always, Emma. That's what real parents do. That night, I told Ryan about my conversation with Emma. He listened thoughtfully, then asked, do you think she'll want to find Jack someday? Maybe, I admitted, when she's older. And if she does, we'll deal with it then. Together. Ryan squeezed my hand. Together. 5 years have passed since that conversation. Emma is now 18 and heading to college in the fall. Tyler is 16 and learning to drive, which is terrifying. Lily is 7 and the spitting image of Ryan, with his brown eyes and gentle nature. We've built a good life here. I still have the restraining order documents in a locked file cabinet, just in case, but we haven't needed them. Jack and his family seem to have finally moved on with their lives, as we have with ours. Sometimes I think about my mother, about the choices she made and the relationship we might have had if she'd chosen differently. But then I look at my family, at Ryan helping Tyler with his homework, at Emma excitedly planning her dorm room, at Lily drawing pictures of our family with everyone holding hands, and I know I made the right choice. I protected my children, I broke the cycle, and in doing so, I found a peace I never thought possible.